Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads. Today we are continuing in our story Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. We are going to be in book 3. Well, I just had it. Book 3, chapter 41 today. But in our last video, just to recap, trying to get closer. Oz and Chloe had had the same dream about grizzly bears attacking them, and they had been denied access to the Senate hearing. So let's see what happens next. Chapter 41. The spectators weren't the only ones who'd been served, I thought, fuming as I walked away from the desk. I couldn't believe what we were being told. Was this some sort of sick joke? On the steps outside the building, I took out my phone and dialed Senator Gardner's office. Yes, said a quick, impatient female voice. Elena Werner, the staffer who had called me the day before. This is Jackson Oz, I said. There's been a terrible mistake. The secretary's not letting me into the hearing. Yes, well, I've been trying to contact you, Mr. Oz, Wernart said. We're not going to be able to accommodate you after all. The hearing is full. Oh, bullshit, I said. Bullshit. Sorry, I don't normally swear, so that's a little out of place for me. Funny you should use that term, Mr. Oz, Wernart spat. Ooh. Because bullshit is exactly what we've been hearing about you. We were led to believe that you were a Columbia scholar, but we've looked into your background. You neglected to inform us that some of the more radical claims on your blog. We need some insight into the animal conservation problems we've been having. Not some lunatic with a conspiracy theory about animals taking over the planet. We're sorry, but Senator Garner doesn't need to associate with wing nut bloggers. I knew it. More politics, more people covering their asses rather than actually trying to understand what's happening in the real world. It was Washington at its finest. I took a deep breath. There is an imminent threat, ma'am, I said. Perhaps if you'd taken the time out of your busy day, you could have come by the meeting yesterday and seen for yourself. Animal behavior is changing radically and alarmingly, and people are dying. I can prove it. It doesn't make the slightest shred of sense, Wernart said. Why is it happening? I'm not sure. Not yet. That's one of the questions we need to figure out. But the why of it is not what's at stake at the moment, Miss Wernart. You don't have to know why your house is on fire to run for the exit. Warnings need to be sent out right now for people to be wary of animal aggression. Right. I'm afraid that'll fly like a lead balloon on CNN, Wernart said. Senator Garner tells the public, lock up your killer Shih Tzu. Please, at least let me show Senator Garner the film I have. I was irritated to hear a new note of begging in my voice. The senator has more important things to do than become involved with your fringe theory. He's booked solid for the next month. Goodbye. Wernart hung up. I stared at my phone. To come this far just to be sold down the river was unacceptable. I didn't even care about all the time and effort it took me to put this presentation together. It was the fact that the public needed to hear what I had to say, and the facts were being hidden by the very people who were supposed to be protecting the populace. Senator's blessing or not, a warning needed to go out. No one else was going to do it. It was up to me. I looked at the media people down by the door, gathered for the environmental hearing that was starting to get underway, and a plan came to me. As I walked back toward the metal detectors, I turned and stopped. Then I climbed up on the platform base of the giant inside sculpture, jumped up, and caught the first branch of the stainless steel tree. Lawyers and politicians and even some real people stopped and started pointing as I scurried up to the top. "Excuse me," I yelled to everyone through cupped hands. "Excuse me, I have something important to say." "Oz," Chloe said, looking up at me from the lobby floor. "What are you doing?" "The only thing left to do," I called down to her. "The people need to know." Chapter 42. "Excuse me," I shouted. "Everyone, I am a scientist. My name is Jackson Oz, and I was invited to speak at the environmental hearing for the U.S. Senate before I was mysteriously uninvited." I glanced down to see the cop who just 86'd us standing beneath the tree, his gun in one hand, his radio in the other. I paused, swallowed, and continued. An environmental disturbance of global proportions is happening. 3 days ago in Botswana, more than 100 people were killed by wild animals. I believe this epidemic is spreading worldwide. Everyone may be in jeopardy. Be on the lookout for sudden aggression in animals. An alarm sounded. I paused. A piercing white light strobed, and the hallway reverberated with clanging bells. From deeper inside the building, I could hear an approach. A herd of stomping footfalls. I bit my lip. I thought maybe I'd grab a little attention from a reporter or two before I was arrested. But now I was worried. After 9/11, this was probably one of the best guarded places on earth. Maybe my plan wasn't as brilliant as it sounded the moment before. That thought was confirmed as a team of men in black fatigues appeared from an exterior hallway, swinging M16s and riot shields. As the SWAT team came through the ringing metal detectors, I could see the letters CERT flashing in silver tape across the backs of their flak jackets. "Get down from there now," a mustached man in a tactical helmet called from the skinny end of a crackling megaphone as he trained the business end of his M16 at my chest. I was doing just that, kneeling down to hang jump off the metal branch when I heard a boom and what felt like an A-Rod line drive hit me in the back of my right hand. My grip faltered and I dropped to the marble floor like a bag of meat. I looked at my hand, felt broken. It looked like I'd been stung by a hornet the size of a kitten. I'd been shot with some type of non-lethal round, a rubber bullet, I guessed. But that was the least of my problems. I'm sorry, the light has changed. I don't know if you can see me clearly. Maybe I need to sit in the sun. Sorry. Yes, the sun is right there. All right. So let's see. That was the least of my problems. 2 blinks later, there was a violent, zinging pain in the back of my legs, and my teeth involuntarily clenched as I started shaking. "You are being tasered. Don't move, you squirrely little prick," said a voice so close to my head I could smell the onions on his breath. That was easy. I couldn't move as my muscles were being zapped into paralysis. Even after the taser fishhooks were ripped from my back, it still felt like someone was boring into my skull with an electric drill. My brain was numbed. Now, 4 cops were on top of me, wrenching my arms behind my back to cuff my wrists. "That's what you get for dicking around," the cop said in my ear. "You're in trouble, like federal Homeland Security style trouble." I was hauled to my feet and walked toward an open double door in the marble wall. I tried to get my feet under me, but the muscles in my legs were still wobbly. I stumbled, they dragged me. I got my legs back, and then they fell out from under me again. I looked down at my useless jelly-like legs. It was like they were somebody else's. "Oh, so now you're resisting arrest," the cop sneered, and a boot blasted into my spine. "Get off of him! Stop hurting him!" A woman screaming. I heard it as if I were underwater, registered as if I were in a coma. I saw Chloe out of the corner of my eye. She was rushing forward, pushing at the cops as she was screaming. I also spotted Gail Quinn, Claire Duggard, and Charles Grow beside her, shouting at the Capitol Police. The hallway resounded with a bunch of echoes of shouting, scuffling, and stomping boots. 2 dream moments later, they were all cuffed and trussed on the floor beside me. They even cuffed Charles Grow to his wheelchair. Clearly a very dangerous man, him. We were yanked up and dragged toward a side open door onto a dingy back corridor. Dingy would be a boat. "Hey, look, Larry," said the cop to one of his buddies. "It's the attack of the," excuse my words, retards. It's what it says. It's not a word I use. "Where's the bearded lady outside keeping the short bus running for the gateway?" Right then was when I truly lost it. I turned and tried to kick the cop in his balls. I missed, though I did manage to land a pretty good blow on his shin. Then my view was blocked by a fist, showing me a sweeping vista of some guy's fingers and knuckles. I took in the scenery for a leisurely fraction of a second before being disturbed, by the noisy crunch of my nose breaking, which echoed numbly in my ears as the lights above me dimmed and sputtered out. Trying to block that sun. Maybe if I just come this way. How about that? That looks a little better. Okay. Chapter 43. After the pandemonium, the Capitol cops brought us to an MPDC holding tank. We were processed and conveyed into a cell in the rear of the building. The walls were cluttered with peace signs, anarchy signs, and pot leaves that the previous occupants had keyed and sharpied onto the grimy tiles. This room had seen its share of troublemakers. We spent the night in the cell. Gail Quinn, Claire Duggard, Charles Grow, Chloe, and me, as well as a few cockroaches I at first mistook for Yorkshire Terriers. I leaned against the wall with 2 scraps of paper towel twisted in my nostrils and my sinuses clogged with blood. We used the time wisely. After I was done apologizing profusely for landing us all in jail, we stayed up half the night in the windowless concrete room, trying to piece together the potential causes of HAC. We kept bumping up against the same barriers we had encountered at the meeting. We decided it was likely that it was a virus. Whatever it was, for it was too similarly affect various species in diverse areas, argued against that possibility. We all agreed it was more likely that this sudden and aberrant shift in behavior was probably a response to a change in the environment. Obviously, the best thing to do now was to perform autopsies on affected animals and look for an anatomical or physiological peculiarities that might point us in the right direction. Whew, talk about a mouthful. Dr. Quinn pledged the help of the Columbia University Biology Department if and when we could get a specimen. Who needs the government anyway, Oz? She said from where she sat, campfire style, by the jail cell door. Even if they'd listened to you today, they would have formed a committee to hire a research team to come up with a study on the personality types of the best people needed to come up with an action plan. We were freed the next morning after our arraignment. The others got off with a misdemeanor charge of public disturbance and a $500 fine. And I was charged with criminal trespass and had to enter a plea and pay $3,000 in bail. Though I now had a federal record and a court date, I wasn't terribly worried about it as we pushed Dr. Grove's wheelchair down the ramp beside the courthouse steps in the early morning sunlight. I had bigger fish to fry. We all did, whether anyone realized it or not. The government was about to be overwhelmed with a lot more important things than me. What now? We go hunting? Chloe said after we had helped load Dr. Grow into the back of a wheelchair-accessible cab with Claire and Gail and said our goodbyes. First, the next portion of your vacation package, I said, pointing to a restaurant down the street. Allow me to introduce you to an American gem, the 24-hour diner. I have another suggestion, Chloe said, pointing at my nose. Your nose looks crooked. Very crooked. You might want to think about seeing a doctor. So our breakfast wound up being eaten in the waiting room of the George Washington University Hospital's ER. After wolfing down an Egg McMuffin while John Hancocking half a dozen documents, I stood on a chair and blitzed through the channels of the wall-mounted TV, trying to see if there was any word of our protest on the news. 2 trips around the horn, and I left it on ESPN, where they were recapping a game last night in which the Celtics had lost to the Knicks, a smaller glimmer of good news. This is ridiculous, I said to Chloe. There's nothing, not a single word about Botswana or the protest. We were arrested for nothing. Another hour of waiting, and I was taken for some x-rays. When Chloe and I came back into the treatment room, we noticed a prisoner in an orange jumpsuit, surrounded by armed guards in the bay across from us. Look, another troublemaker, Chloe whispered to me. Her smile was sweet and impish. I smiled back. That she could keep up a sense of humor through all this bullshit was incredible. Yeah, well, I said, this must be the mad, bad, and dangerous to know section. After a while, a handsome doctor came in with my x-rays, the glossy sheet of black film flapping in his small, smooth hand. He looked young enough to be a George Washington University undergrad. He glanced at Chloe a beat too long for my liking and smiled cheerily as he told me that my nose was, indeed, broken. I didn't like your nose before anyway, Chloe said as Dr. Feelsgood snapped a pair of latex gloves onto his tiny porcelain hands and set my nose back into its proper form. I am kidding, said Chloe, smiling behind her hand. In a moment, I was lying with my shirt off on a crinkling sheet of gurney paper. I'm going to have to re-break your nose before I set it, the doctor said as he pinched down hard on my face. It's been a number of hours since you were injured. I didn't like the sound of that. My face betrayed me. It'll only take a second, said the doctor. He was talking to me as though I were a child afraid of needles. Ready? He snapped his glove. Bastard was whistling. I was struggling to sit up, and then I felt a soft hand in mine. You can do this, Oz, Chloe said, squeezing my hand. I'm right here. A funny thing happened then. I actually did calm down. This was becoming a theme for us, helping each other out, anticipating each other's needs. As I looked at Chloe and felt her cool hand in mine, I realized I was falling very hard and fast in love with this woman. I had a suspicion it was happening to her too. Then the doctor broke my nose and I screamed like a baby. And we're going to stop there. Woo! Well, that was a busy couple of chapters, and like that. I apologize about the vivid depiction of being arrested, and I'll certainly put that in the description, hoping that it's not a trigger for anybody. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the chaos of this video. I also hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, if you subscribe to the channel and click the bell tab, you will get an update every time a new video posts. I will see you next time. Bye.